Hi there, welcome to Becoming Madame. This is an introduction to what we'll be doing tomorrow, which is an excursion to Parc Monceau. If you visited Paris before, you might have seen the Parc Monceau, which is a very, very beautiful park in the northern 8th arrondissement. But what I'm going to show you is the neighborhoods, several neighborhoods that surround Parc Monceau and some of the very, very beautiful architecture in that area. Likely you wouldn't have seen this part of Paris that I'm about to show you that surrounds Parc Monceau unless you were with someone who knows Paris quite intimately. So I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the Parc Monceau. The metro is Marceau, and this is the main entrance. You'll notice that all the way around the park there's actually several entrances which are all wrought iron with beautiful gold trimming. It is quite exceptional. Within the first outer gates there's on each entrance there are buildings which actually these buildings are inside the park. It's very exclusive. Obviously very, very expensive. It would be like living not around Central Park but living in Central Park. These are beautiful old Haussmannian buildings. Some of them used to be homes, hôtels particulaires, and now they've been broken up into very large, very, very chic apartments, but nevertheless apartments themselves. When you enter the park through one of the main entrances, it's a big cross, and that's what you're seeing here. And here are the gates. You can see here the outer gate and the inner gate and the buildings in between, which are again a very exclusive place to live. The park is mainly used by families and obviously joggers. This was 10 o'clock in the morning. It's surrounded by buildings that are not inside the park like the ones I showed you earlier, but they obviously have a privileged view as well as access directly, mostly from their courtyards. The park has this Egyptian pyramid as well as an old Dutch mill and a lot of old columns from ancient Greece and lots of statues of old painters and writers. This is a Hotel Particulier, which still exists as one house near the park. And here you can see some of the old columns, and we're coming up to a Greek sort of revival wall of columns that surrounds a pond. A very typical way for Parisians to use the park is to go for a picnic. So imagine a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, take a bunch of friends, a bottle of wine, a baguette, some cheese, some grapes or some strawberries, some saucisson, some olives, a bottle of Perrier, and there you have it. Spread out a blanket over the grassy areas. And that's pretty much the quintessential weekend afternoon for a Parisian. It's a really, really beautiful place. And there's lots of flowers and rose gardens. The park was begun by the Duke of Chartres in the late 1780s. And it was named Parc Monceau because it was near the village of Marceau. And at that time, it was outside the city limits. Like the village of Auteuil, which we did in our last video, in 1860, it became part of the Paris expansion. Also in 1860, half of the park was sold off to the Berrière brothers, who were wealthy businessmen of the day, and they built Hôtels Particuliers, which are big, huge mansions surrounding the park, and that's where you see a lot of those beautiful buildings, which we'll see some more later on as well. This is the main entrance to the park. And you can see again the lovely, lovely gates. The outside of the park is completely surrounded by these sorts of wrought iron gates, and to one side of the park is the Arc de Triomphe. And here we can just see the gates. This is what it looks like when you're sort of looking. Those aren't the main gates, but those are one of the gates. And here we're walking into another one of the inside sort of communities where, as I mentioned, between the outer gates and the inner gates of the park, there are certain buildings which have a very privileged position because of the exclusivity of the area. They're mostly nannies actually out with the children. Most of these buildings were private homes originally, and they all have maids or nannies' quarters upstairs, and usually on the highest floors where you see the sort of the tiny windows up top. And they all have back stairs leading to those small apartments from the kitchens of the main apartments, and that was of course the way it was back in the old days as well. Now outside, just on the outside of the Parc Monceau, there are a few roads, Rembrandt is one of them, which have some absolutely gorgeous old architecture buildings, and this is another part of the area which is extremely, extremely chic. And here, for example, is a Hotel Particulier, which is still in existence. You'll notice they all have their own little gates as well. You notice here that, as I mentioned, they all have their own little gates, so they're private with digital codes, and so even to get to the buildings themselves, you have to go through some security. Here's the building that I love so much. It's look at the windows. This thing is just unbelievable. There's two sets of these beautiful bay windows, and they're leaded glass. Really, really exceptional. Actually, this neighborhood is so chic that they have their own valet parking man, and so you don't even have to worry about parking, because most buildings in Paris don't have parking because they were too old. Here he is here. And so essentially what you do is you just call him up and say, oh, kind of like in the old days, oh, hi James, bring the car around, and he goes and gets it and brings it to your front door, and then when you come home you just get out of the car and give it to him and he parks it. So it's the only neighborhood in Paris where I've seen that so far, but it's quite funny. He's the one who told me a lot about the neighborhood, and he also told me that some of the residents are, for example, the Rockefellers have an entire building in this neighborhood. And the one that I loved so much with the bay windows, that one is from the early 1800s. So the streets that are really the most beautiful ones in the area are Rue Rembrandt, Murillo, and Lisbourne. Those are the ones in sort of that area I was showing you with the beautiful buildings. And again, you have direct access into the park, which of course is wonderful when you're in absolutely the smack dab center of a city. You notice in front of you the old pillars. They're from ancient Greek times. Whether they're replicas or originals, I'm really not sure. They look like originals when you see them up close, but I can't be. Don't quote me. I'm not sure. Here again are some more of the really beautiful buildings that are just on those several streets surrounding the park, and they're all, again, Haussmannian from the 1800s, 1900s, early 1900s, so 1903, 1905. This is a building that's a little bit more on the, a little bit further away from the park, but what I love about it is it's actually still a house. The whole entire red building here, and you'll see that it has an old tower. But I think it's just amazing. It has a really beautiful leaded glass window on the side, right there. It's really, really, it's quite an exceptional piece of architecture in the middle of the middle of the city. You can imagine back in the day, in the 1800s or the early 1900s when it was built, that there was nothing around it. And so this is a Chinese art museum, and of course the entire building is extremely interesting because it's so unique, and it is just on the edge of Rue Rembrandt, which is that street with the beautiful architecture that I love so much, the one with the gilded, the leaded glass windows. That's kind of special. This is the other side of that same building, but it's really quite. You'll notice when we zoom in, even the woodwork. I mean, it's really quite exceptional. Now, for those of you who know about Patricia Wells and know her books, when she first came for 20 years to Paris, she lived on a street right near the Parc Monceau called Rue d'Arrondissement, and here it is. I just wanted to give you a little peek about what I'm not sure which building they lived in. They said they lived in a building that was from the early 1900s, so whichever one it is, I'm not really sure, but this is the street that they lived on. Her book I really enjoyed. She did a memoir with her husband about her years in Paris and in France, really, in the south of France as well, and I thought it was really great. But anyway, that is the Parc Monceau and the surrounding area, and I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.